Coming up on our newscast, FIFA provisionally suspends Sepp Blatter for 90 days, much to the delight of FIFA presidential candidate Chung Mong-joon, who was revving up to take a shot at Blatter for trying to bring him down. But the Korean former FIFA vice president is slapped with a 6-year ban himself. The final list of people who signed up to meet family members they've been disconnected from since the Korean War has ended is submitted. Less than 200 out of more than 60,000 members of war-torn families will get the chance to take part in the event. The primary suspect of the Itaewon Burger King murder of 1997 who fled the country was extradited to Korea and appeared before the Seoul Central District Court today. All next on Primetime News. Hello and welcome to Primetime News on this Thursday, October 8th. I'm Daniel Choy.
And I'm Hwang Ji-hye. Thank you for joining us.
We begin with the latest in scandal surrounding FIFA, the world's football governing body. Sepp Blatter's name was, of course, making headlines.
As well as Korea's Chung Mong-joon, the former vice president of the organization.
Well, it looks like his chances has been mired because of the controversy. Let's connect to our Ji-won for the latest. Ji-won?
The adjudicatory chamber of the ethics committee suspended former FIFA vice president Chung Mong-joon for 6 years and fined him with $103,000, while FIFA president Sepp Blatter is provisionally banned for 90 days. Both of them will be banned from all football activities. This would mean Chung will not be able to run for the presidency, for which he has to register by October 26th. Earlier on Thursday, Chung's spokesman told Arirang TV on the phone that they're planning an appeal within the next 2 days.
And you know the relationship between Michel Platini.
We'll take all possible measures to tackle this matter, including legal actions. And we firmly believe that international community will support our actions with common sense.
And Ji-won, another presidential candidate, Michel Platini, president of the Union of European Football Associations, has also been implicated in this scandal. Does this mean he has absolutely no shot at the FIFA dreams?
No. Together with Blatter, he and the Secretary General, Jerome Valk, have also been banned for 90 days. Platini is accused of receiving disloyal payment of about $2 million from Blatter in 2011. During the 3 months' time, investigations will continue and the suspension may be extended by a further 45 days.
Well, I'm sure football fans began fuming as soon as they heard the latest development. But for those who might be new to the FIFA fiasco, could you maybe backtrack a little bit for us?
Chung Mong-joon, who's also the honorary president of the Korean Football Association, was accused of vote trading for writing a letter to FIFA executive members in 2010, explaining Korea's World Cup bid committee's plans to raise a global football fund if Korea were to host 2022 World Cup. However, as Chung found fault with key leaders of FIFA, the ethics committee brought up something that's already been investigated and settled 5 years ago, and prompted Chung to call the ethics committee a hired gun for Blatter. The whole scandal then began to engulf Blatter after several senior members were investigated by the U.S. and Swiss authorities, turning themselves as witness for the prosecution. Back to you guys.
All right, thank you for that report, Ji-won. We appreciate it. Now, the two Koreas have exchanged their finalists of candidates for a reunion event for war-separated families that's set to take place in just 2 weeks.
Well, those included on the list have won a chance that's slimmer than winning the lottery, which I don't think it takes an expert to say that we need to hold this event more regularly. Here's our Hong Ji-sun with the full story.
뭐 갈 수가 없잖아. 우리 개인으로는 말이야. 보내만 준다고 하면은 내가 기어서라도 갈 마음이라고.
87-year-old Kim Woo-jung attributes his survival during the Korean War to his late mother, who advised him to flee south. Now, after 65 years of waiting, Kim will finally get to see his youngest sister, who is 81, along with some of his surviving nephews from the north, at a reunion event later this month.
그걸만 내가 보고 싶고 했겠어. 요새 내 잠을 못 자. 아, 그거야, 뭐. 그날 그걸 보면, 그날 내가 잠을 못 자고 했어.
Roughly 190 families will have the opportunity to meet their long-lost relatives at North Korea's Mount Kumgang Resort from October 20th to the 26th. During their 3-day stay, the families usually get to see each other about 6 times in sessions lasting 2 hours each. That's an awfully short amount of time, considering the more than 6 decades they've waited to see one another. But Kim is just one of more than 66,000 people currently registered as war-separated families in the database of the South Korean Red Cross. That means people on the list have a 0.1% chance of being chosen for a future reunion event. And with more than 4,000 people on the list passing away each year, there are increasing calls for regular reunion events before their time to meet runs out. 송지선, Arirang News.
The United Nations has opened an office in Seoul to gather crucial information that will help close a network of prison camps in North Korea. Our Kim Ji-yeon sat down with the UN representative in charge of the Seoul office to learn more about its function.
The United Nations Human Rights Office in Seoul is tasked with gathering information regarding alleged widespread and systematic abuses in North Korea. At the center of the allegations are 4 city-sized political prison camps, where cases of torture and starvation, as well as executions, are rampant. Various human rights groups estimate the camps hold up to a combined 120,000 people considered hostile to the regime. The UN says the violations in the north reached to a point that amounts to the most heinous crimes of all, crimes against humanity.
Crimes against humanity are of concern not only to North Korea, not only to its neighbors, but to humanity as a whole, because they're such serious human rights violations. So that is also one of the reasons that our office was established, because the UN as a whole has a rights-based mandate that requires the international community to look into these kinds of violations when they reach that point.
How significant is Seoul having an office here helps your investigation or inquiry?
Having an office in Seoul helps us access a wide range of information that we wouldn't have access to so easily. We don't have access to the DPRK, so of course we do not see ourselves with first-hand what is happening. But we do have access to many sources that describe to us similar patterns of violations, and so in that way we are able to verify information.
With the establishment of an office in Seoul, North Korea delegation says it's a conspiracy led by the U.S. What do you make of their strong reaction?
Well, I mean, this is their reaction. We would very much welcome technical cooperation with them, and you know, sometimes while these strong statements happen, of course, on the one hand, we also see a few positive moves being made, such as North Korea accepting first of all, participating in the Universal Periodic Review of its human rights record, which every country goes through, and engaging with the international community in that respect.
So they're taking this very seriously. What do you think is going to happen next when your investigation is complete? What kind of actions or reaction do you think is going to happen?
What we hope will happen is that the human rights situation for people living in the DPRK will improve. But that is our ultimate goal, and we don't have one path of getting there, but many paths that we can pursue. So we won't limit ourselves just to Seoul. We will get information wherever it's available.
Well, thank you for your time, Ms. Paulson.
Thank you very much.
A key Japanese politician from the country's ruling coalition says he has delivered a personal letter from Prime Minister Shinzo Abe to President Park Geun-hye. Speaking to reporters after a meeting with President Park today, Komeito Party leader Natsuo Yamaguchi said Abe expressed his hope for building a future-oriented relationship with Korea. The Japanese politician, who is currently in Seoul for a 3-day visit, said he hopes that President Park and Prime Minister Abe will be able to hold a summit on the sidelines of a planned trilateral talks with China. Diplomatic sources in Seoul say the Korean leader has not commented on the possibility of a bilateral summit with her Japanese counterpart.
And over at Korea's National Assembly, rival parties are at loggerheads again over a variety of contentious issues. This comes as the annual parliamentary audit wrapped up. Our Park Ji-won reports.
The annual audit of state affairs wrapped up at the National Assembly on Thursday, with 11 parliamentary committees continuing to fire questions. The Labor Committee focused on 5 labor reform bills produced by the ruling Saenuri Party. Opposition lawmakers grilled the chair of a tri-party commission representing labor, management, and the government on whether the ruling party's proposals had broken any of the commission's agreements. The Foreign Affairs and Unification Committee asked Unification Minister Hong Yong-pyo about the possibility of inter-Korean talks, to which he replied the idea is still under consideration.
We're closely watching the situation now while making necessary efforts. There are no developments in terms of inter-Korean talks as of yet, but we are working towards having them happen.
Lawmakers also pressed the minister to find a way to help more war-separate families meet their loved ones before they pass away. Meanwhile, amid the emissions cheating scandal engulfing German automaker Volkswagen, the Transportation Committee grilled Volkswagen Korea CEO Thomas Kuhl about the company's local operations. Lawmakers criticized the German company for what they said was a belated apology to Korean consumers issued Thursday. Kuhl apologized again for the company's breach of trust with the public.
We will do everything to clarify and to solve this issue as soon as possible. Our utmost priority is to win back your trust and your satisfaction in Korea.
He said the reason the apology came 3 weeks after the emissions rigging scandal erupted in the U.S. was because an investigation was necessary to devise concrete solutions for Korea. This is the last parliamentary audit of the government during this 19th assembly, but observers say the audit sessions failed to produce any tangible results as the rival parties were mired on their own internal conflicts. Park Ji-won, Arirang News.
The older brother of the Lotte Group chairman has vowed to sue his younger brother and the board of directors of the conglomerate's key holding company. Shin Dong-ju said in a statement he will represent his father, Shin Gyok-ho, in a fight to reverse an allegedly illegitimate move in July that removed his father from his position of chairman at Lotte Holdings. Since then, the two brothers have been in a bitter battle over the helm of the family empire. The eldest brother's lawsuit for both Japan and Korea follows his younger brother garnering the support of the holding company shareholders in August. Lotte Group has said the younger Shin's support from the board is legitimate and that it foresees the litigation will have few adverse effects on the country's 5th largest conglomerate. The American citizen accused of murdering a Korean student 18 years ago appeared before the Seoul Central District Court today for the first pre-trial hearing after having been extradited to Korea last month. Our Lee Soo-eun gives us the details.
April 3, 1997, in the bathroom of a Burger King in Seoul, a Korean student was stabbed to death with a knife that belonged to Arthur Patterson, who was at the site that day with his friend Edward Lee. The two friends traded accusations, but Lee was initially found guilty of the murder in October 1997, only to be acquitted the following year by the Supreme Court, citing a lack of evidence. That made Patterson the primary suspect. He fled for the U.S. in 1999, but was extradited back to Korea last month and appeared in court at a pretrial hearing on Thursday. The prosecution said, citing earlier testimony, that Patterson told his friends he had committed the murder. It also pointed to the fact that Patterson was holding his own knife that day, with his entire body covered in the victim's blood, as evidence of his guilt. Patterson's lawyer denied his client was guilty and reiterated his client's claim that Lee was the guilty one.
Lie detector tests have shown that Edward Lee was lying and that Patterson was telling the truth.
Regarding the blood, he pointed to the fact that Patterson's t-shirt was white, making the blood more visible, and that it was taken into evidence 2 days after the murder, while Lee's wasn't collected until 5 days after. He added Lee was the first person in and out of the restaurant bathroom that day and repeated the accusation that Lee had committed the murder while on drugs. Also in court was Edward Lee's father, who had said earlier that his son was willing to testify to his own innocence.
I came out today to reveal the truth. All the records are saying that Patterson is the culprit.
The next hearing is scheduled for October 22nd, and the trial will begin in November. Lee Soo-eun, Arirang News.
The first day of the President's Cup golf tournament finished today in Incheon with the international team struggling. The team ended the day down 4-1 with the South African pairing of Louis Oosthuizen and Brandon Grace, the only ones to put points on the board. World number 2 Jason Day and Steven Bowditch also came close to scoring, being the only other pair to take their U.S. opponents to all 18 holes, but they eventually lost out to Mickelson and Zach Johnson. The four-ball games start tomorrow, and the international team will be aiming to do better to try and improve their record of 1 win in 10 tournaments. Staying with the President's Cup, this is the first time the contest is being held in Asia, and Korea has taken pride in being the host nation. Kwon Jang-ho takes a further look at how it is playing out.
The Jack Nicklaus Golf Club and Incheon City have been looking forward to this event for a long while. The city have been angling to host the President's Cup ever since the golf club was built in 2010 to establish the city and the course as a premier golfing destination. And so far, it has been a success.
The golf course is fabulous, greens are immaculate.
Everything is set up so well, beyond expectations. The course, transport, hotel, food.
Over 18,000 spectators turned up for the first round of games, and they weren't all local. Over 50% of tickets were bought by overseas fans, almost a quarter from Japan and 8% from both US and the Philippines. The tournament is being broadcast in 225 countries in 30 languages, and the organizers have said they expect the event to attract over 1 billion viewers worldwide. The presence of the world number 1, Jordan Spieth, and the world number 2, Jason Day, has fans brimming with excitement. It is hoped that Australian Day can help lift the international team, which has only won once in the 10 outings of the tournament's history. Like the Ryder Cup, there is no prize money for the President's Cup, with profits going to charities nominated by players, captains and assistants. And as the honorary chairman of the tournament, President Park Geun-hye gave a blessing to the event at the opening ceremony on Wednesday, saying that the contest promoted peace and harmony between the nations. Former US President George Bush was in attendance and has been spotted hanging out with the US team. Korea and Incheon are enjoying the global attention, and now all that's left is for the golf to match up to the hype. Kwon Jang-ho, Arirang News.
The Kimje Horizon Festival is now on in Jeollabuk-do Province, a southern region in Korea. The annual event celebrates Kimje City's rich agrarian heritage, which dates back to ancient times. For the next 3 days, visitors can enjoy authentic farming culture and activities such as harvesting rice, catching grasshoppers, and riding on an ox cart. There will be also bands playing nongak, or traditional farmers' music, which was listed as a World Cultural Heritage Asset by UNESCO last year. And in commemoration of the 70th anniversary of Korea's independence, this year's installment of the festival is expected to gather more than 1,700 participants flying kites that bear the national flag. Now it's time for international headlines. We turn to our Bruce Harrison at the News Center.
Today's focus, the Syrian military strikes rebel forces with the help of Russia. Forest fires continue to threaten people and wildlife in Indonesia, and an Eastern European woman captures the Nobel Prize in Literature for her keen observations on human suffering.
Well, Bruce, first to Syria, where the government claims to have launched its first major offensive against terrorist strongholds.
The Syrian government has lost a lot of ground opposition forces, but now with the apparent support of Russian airstrikes and allied troops, the regime of Syrian President Bashar Assad looks determined to retake towns and villages. A Syrian military official said today Russia carried out airstrikes in the latest offensive to eliminate the Islamic State, but did not say where the strikes took place.
Today, the Syrian armed forces began a big attack with the aim of wiping out terrorist groups and liberating the areas and towns which have suffered from their crimes.
Watchdog Syrian Observatory for Human Rights said the attack was launched in the Gob Plain in western Syria. NATO has again expressed concerns Russia is not only targeting Islamic State and terrorist groups, but also forces opposing the Assad regime, including some trained by the United States. The organization's Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg called the escalation of Russian military activities troubling. The president of Indonesia is asking for help from other countries to put out forest fires that have been raging for weeks. Smoke from the fires has made more than 100,000 people sick while threatening wildlife. President Joko Widodo also said he was in the process of reaching out to Singapore, Russia, Malaysia, and Japan. The Indonesian government has said at least 135,000 people are now suffering from respiratory illnesses. Newly released footage from Greenpeace has revealed that pockets of the Gunung Palung National Park and nearby palm oil concessions were on fire. According to Greenpeace, Gunung Palung Park has one of the world's largest orangutan populations. The source of the forest fire stems from companies using burning land for palm oil and pulpwood plantations on Sumatra Island and Indonesia's part of Borneo Island. Hazardous smoke has pushed up pollution to dangerous levels across parts of Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, and southern Thailand. A Belarusian woman has won the Nobel Prize in Literature for her chronicling of modern suffering.
The Nobel Prize in Literature for 2015 is awarded to the Belarusian writer Svetlana Alexievich for her polyphonic writings, a monument to suffering and courage in our time.
Alexievich's work includes a series of books called The Voices of Utopia. Her books are about individuals in the former Soviet Union, as well as stories on the consequences of the 1986 nuclear disaster in Chernobyl and the Russian war in Afghanistan. The Nobel Prize is named after dynamite inventor Alfred Nobel and has been awarded since 1901 for achievements in science, literature, and peace in accordance with Mr. Nobel's will. When the Swedish Academy said Alexievich found out she won, she only had one word: fantastic. And that's a glimpse of the world today. Have a great night.
Hope you enjoyed the warm autumn afternoon we had today. Things are about to get much cooler starting tomorrow, with lows kicking off in the low teens and highs will barely topping out at 20 here in Seoul. And tomorrow is Hangul Day here in Korea, which will mark the beginning of a 3-day weekend for many of you. And the holiday will be mostly sunny, and Saturday should be a rainy day, while Sunday will be a dry one, but it's going to be quite chilly, so take the weather into account for any outdoor activities. And as for the tomorrow's temperature readings, Seoul will start at 12, getting up to 20, while Daegu and Gwangju rising to 22 and 21, while Busan tops out at 24. And as for the other regions, Daejeon and Jeju Island will see a high of 20 and 21, while Dokdo peaks at 20. The first autumn foliage has been spotted in Mount Hallasan yesterday, with Jirisan and Woraksan Mountain following suit today. And with the big temperature differences and drop in mercuries, trees in most regions will change into fall colors in no time. Well, that's all for Korea, and here's international weather for viewers around the world.
And that brings us to the end of our newscast. Thank you for staying with us.
And this is the final newscast with Hwang Ji-hye and Daniel Choy, unfortunately. But of course, Ji-hye's expertise and professionalism is wanted elsewhere. But I'm sure you'll be back here with me, right by my side someday soon. And while the ride lasted, it was a blast. It was a learning experience for me. Thank you for your passion and professionalism.
Thank you for all that comments, Daniel. And please stay tuned for our primetime news tomorrow, same time with Daniel Choy. Goodbye for now.